Can I tell you 3 things that I want you to stop doing right now that is almost guaranteed to make your life easier, to make you feel less inadequate, to make you feel less overwhelmed, or to, just to be just be. 3 things. If we stop doing these 3 things, our lives will drastically change. Do you want to know what they are? I'm going to tell you in a minute. First, I just want to welcome you to the Full Weight of Joy podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Tami. I'm your host, and I am a Master Certified Life and Business Coach. I help women step into who God's called them to be by understanding how He wired them, by understanding what their gifts, their talents, their strengths, what their weaknesses, what their motivations. By understanding how God wired us, we can then see how to do what He's called us to do. I believe that there's a really big connection of this desire to fulfill your purpose and to understand how He called you to do the purpose, to fulfill this. And we have this desire to serve, and we have this desire to be more like Christ and to really answer the question of, who am I? And the bigger question is, who did God create me to be? Why am I on this earth? And so today I want to talk to you about 3 things that we need to stop doing right away. As we are, this episode is going to drop whether either right before Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving, or right after. I don't know exactly which order. However, it's right around the holidays. And this is the time that we sit and we reflect. We start to look at our year and realize, oh my gosh, it went by so fast. And then we start making our plans and our resolutions, our goals, our intentions for the next year. And so as I was doing that, I was thinking out, what are 3 things that if I would have stopped doing this year, that would have been a lot easier in my life? 3 lessons that I had to learn that I don't want you to have to learn on your own. My guess is that you already know these, but I'm going to give them to you again. And I'm going to encourage you to take them and take them to heart. So then I'm also going to give you 3 things you can do when you're starting to feel overwhelmed, when you're starting to feel misaligned, when you're starting to question this, what do I want from this? Or do I even want to be here? So these 3 things that we can start doing that I know will also change the trajectory of your life. They change the trajectory, your decision-making framework. So let's first start with things that we need to stop doing immediately. Okay. There's nothing new under the sun. I guarantee that these 3 things you've heard before, but sometimes we need to hear them again over and over and over. I know these 3 things that if I look back at the lessons that I have been learning, and I have a podcast later on about some of the lessons that I've learned in 2024, but these 3 things would have fixed majority of them. And the first is stop doubting yourself. So stop questioning whether you're good enough. Stop questioning whether you're qualified enough. Stop questioning if you are capable. Instead, trust your experience. Trust your talents. Trust and have faith that God is not going to put you in a place that you are just going to utterly fail. We may fall. It may be a season of being stretched, but He's not going to stretch us so much that He breaks us. He's there for us. And so when we stop doubting ourselves, we get to stop doubting Him. And so when we look and we replacing doubt with gratitude, super simple. When we're just grateful for, I even started looking at some of the experiences that I have had this year, these ones that I've grown through, some that did not work out the way I wanted, and being grateful for those blessings. Some that happened how I wanted, and then I realized I'm man, that was not actually what I needed, and grateful for those lessons. And just the ones that are okay, well, you did it. Now, was that actually necessary? And those lessons, but being grateful for every step of the way, because you know what? I wake up and I have this day of life. We're not promised tomorrow. We're promised today. And we don't even know well, I'm not going to go dark here. Like, let's stay positive here, even though we're talking about things we need to stop doing. But this doubting yourself, if every time you doubt yourself, you just say, okay, I'm going to take an action, we would be so much further ahead. There are things that I started early this year that if I would have just done it, figured it out as I went along, instead of sitting and doubting, I would be so much further. And then I realized that I had to go through the process to learn it anyway. I wasn't expected to know it when I first started. You're not expected to know everything when you first start. In fact, the things that we know may not even be relative relative or relevant in the situation. We don't know. I'm actually getting ready to read a book. I'm making my list of books for next year, and it talks about understanding the things we don't know. How do we figure out what we don't know in a situation? Because most of the time, I've realized that those things that I don't know are the things that are stopping me. The doubting myself, when I know how God wired me, I don't have to fear that. It's there. It's not always on, like, I'm not always 100%, but I'm definitely over 50. I can definitely bet, it's definitely better than 50-50. And really, it's more like 80-20. So stop doubting yourself. Also, look back and see, how many times did you figure it out in the moment? How many times did you have to get scrappy and get, just figure it out and make it work? So if you would take that time that you spent doubting yourself and just go right into, all right, what do we know? What do I need to know? What outcomes do I want? And let's go for it. I'm not saying just dive into everything without planning, but I'm just saying don't waste your time doubting yourself. If anything, look at how many times you figured it out and just lean on the fact that I may not know it, but I can figure it out. And so when you are grateful for the journey, the life experiences, those skills that you have. I mean, as a mom, whether you've been working a 9 to 5 or what, as a mom, you have been developing skills that are definitely necessary. Time management, we got to manage everyone's schedules. Balancing home and work and volunteering. We balance so many things. We've learned how to manage and work things. So don't stop doubting yourself. Don't waste a minute of your time doubting yourself. The next one is stop doing it all. If you listen to the last podcast episode, I talked about the different masks that we wear. And sometimes we feel that we feel like we have to be busy in order to feel appreciated or to feel worthy. That I'm tired of how you been? How's life? Busy. No, life is great. I am busy, but by things that I want to be busy with. I'm intentional. Now, I don't get that right all the time. Again, not perfect. There's times that I look back and be like, yeah, that took way too much time. I am not going to do that again. Then there's times that I'm going from thing to thing. A couple of weeks ago, my schedule was so packed. I had to wake up early. I did not go to the gym, but I did do some like 10 minutes of floor stretching just to get my body going and and then I went straight to it was the election day. And so I got to my voting location. I got there an hour early, so that way I wasn't waiting for hours and hours, because then I was going to fill in as the tutor for my son's class, and then I have clients, and then I had the vision lab, and then I had my growth group, and then I went to church and got to speak with the young adults about money and entrepreneurship. Like, my day started at before 5 a.m. and I did not get home until after 9 p.m. It was a full day, but you know what? I loved it. And the next morning I took off. I slept in. I did get up and go to the gym, but then I had the first couple of hours, I just relaxed. I just was being. So we can do a lot, but we don't need to do it all. It's not our responsibility to do everything. We got to learn to delegate. I am super excited. One thing that I've learned is to delegate. And I've recently in process of, I'm hiring a new virtual assistant who is going to help me with very specific things, because I actually took a class on how to delegate. Okay. I'm like, okay, if this is going to work, I need to be able to know what to give to them and how to give to them. How do I know what to delegate? Because it goes back to, I don't know what I don't know. What do I need to tell them in order for them to be successful? So I took a class on delegating. I took a class on how to not do it all. Okay. If that's not funny, but it was a really great class. But asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Telling people no. I was listening to some of the things that the most successful people, what things that they attribute their success to. And part of it is they say no to 90% of the things they're asked. 90%. These are the most successful people. And you look at who they are, and they are like, they have servants' hearts as well. It's not that they are selfish and they're just self-driven. No, they want to give, but they want to give their best. So they say no to 90% of the opportunities that come their way, even good opportunities, because they know they're not the best opportunities. You don't need to do it all. And so by delegating tasks, asking for help, or saying no to commitments that don't align with your priorities, and I want to go as further to say that they don't go align with your priorities, with your strengths, and with your why, with what God has commissioned you, the assignment that God's given you to do. And by saying no to those, you're able to free up time, because we're not meant to have that day that I was, before the sun came up and way after the sun came down. Like, that is not the life that I want. But I love the fact that I got to do that, because it was all my choice. And it's things that but if I said yes to more clients that day, I actually had to move some clients around. I didn't have lunch with my daughter that day. There's things that I set down because I couldn't do it all, but I knew it was for a short time. But when we let go of the need to prove our worth by overcommitting and overworking, I look at individuals who can delegate well and run a business that lights them up and that brings them energy. And the fact that also the people who work for them as well love it, because they find their worth. They find their value in being able to just serve in a way that that lights them up, that is their strengths. But they're not being micromanaged. They're not being they are given tasks and then they get to rise to the occasion. You don't have to do it all to be it all. You are already enough. And the third one is stop deflecting compliments. Stop dismissing praise or minimizing your achievements. When someone acknowledges your work or contributions, when they acknowledge you, simply say thank you. Own your thank you. There are times that I don't think thank you is quite enough. There's times that or when people help, or that I'm just I don't have any, in our English language, our thank you is simple. I know that in Greek and in Latin, there's multiple ways to say different degrees of thank you. But when we own our recognition, when we can just say thank you, instead of it was, I had time, or, oh no, it was, and I know this because I do this. I don't want to seem prideful. I don't want to seem arrogant. I actually don't even want to seem like I have it all together, because I, in fact, do not. But there's times that I'm oh, you're right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Tami. This conversation helped. And I was oh, no problem. It's just, it is what it is. Just say thank you and own your genius. The fact that you have these gifts that you're giving. When we own the recognition without undermining the compliments, that does something to us. It helps our confidence. It also shows them that you are appreciative. We don't have to say, oh, it was nothing. Girl, it was something. Okay. I know the last time you did something for me that it took your time, your energy, your resources. And I am so grateful for it. I was having people over and someone's like, hey, I know you're busy. Do you want me to bring dessert? I was like, yeah, that would be great. If I don't have to worry about baking, I can just make what I want to make and plan and someone else. Yes. Thank you. I know that she had to work things around and she may have enjoyed it. It's a blessing, again, like to be able to bake. I know she's really good at dessert. She loves it. But again, we don't have to do it all. But also deflecting compliments is not helpful by just telling her thank you. And she's like, oh, it's nothing. I was like, no, it really is something. It means a lot to me. This takes a lot of pressure off of me. And I am so grateful. When someone tells you you're pretty, just say thank you. When someone says you have a nice smile, just say thank you. When someone says that you really helped them, or you inspired them, or that you, whatever it may be, thank you for pick up and drop off. It really helped me out. Just say thank you. When we stop deflecting compliments, then we can really own God's gifts in us. Okay. Sorry about that. I think we're back. So stop doubting yourself. Don't waste your time doubting yourself. Own your strengths and all the skills and you've been through and that you've grown from. Stop trying to do it all. We don't need to. It's not a sign of strength by doing it all. Those individuals who delegate the most are the ones that I just watch in awe, and you see because they're leaning into their strengths, and then other people around them can lean into theirs. And then stop deflecting compliments. It is okay for someone to acknowledge your greatness, and you can say thank you without being prideful. You can say thank you because it's how God created you. He wired you. He gifted you this position to be able to serve. So say thank you. And don't follow it up with, oh, it was nothing, because it's not nothing. It took your time, your energy, your resources. It took your experiences. It is taking you a lifetime to get to this moment to be able to serve in this way or whatever it may be. Own your greatness. Okay. So now let's shift. I want to talk to you about 3 things that we can do. 3 things that I spent more time this year intentionally doing to see how it would help my life, see how it helped me push past challenges, because we've had a lot. I've had a lot of things to juggle, and I've had to say no to many things because I knew that a big yes was coming. And so to plan that out. And so I wanted to talk about 3 coping mechanisms that we can implement immediately. The first one's reflecting. Take time daily to reflect. When we take time to pause and reflect, and not just like, oh, that was such a great experience. Why? Why was it a great experience? How did it align with your values? How did it align with your strengths? What are some recent wins that came from it? What are the lessons learned? And just take a couple of minutes and journal about this. Okay, I'm going to be real with you. I have made it a commitment to myself that I'm going to be more action focused and action oriented and setting intentions. I really do. I love setting intentions. But if we don't set the intentions and then create the actions, then it doesn't work. Our intentions will fall flat and we're going to feel worse than when we started. And so I want to encourage you in this next year, like, I want to get out of this procrastination. I don't want you to procrastinate anymore. I don't want you to doubt yourself. I don't want you to do it all. And I don't want you to deflect compliments. I want you to own your genius. And so this time when I say to take some time to journal, I actually mean you should sit down with a piece of paper. You can do bullet points. You can freehand. You can draw. You can whatever, but sit in silence for a short time. It's a muscle. So give yourself 5 minutes if you need to. But I want you to sit and simply ask yourself some of these questions. Because if we don't start looking within and ask ourselves and then ask God,
What do you want me to take from this? We will miss big opportunities, big lessons, and big wins. And if like we miss life when we don't sit, and life can keep it. I mean, time goes and goes and goes. And by sitting and reflecting, by journaling, this does something to it grounds us in the present as we are reflecting and as we are dreaming. It's a bridge. And so here are some questions. It's like, what truly matters to me in this situation? Just ask you, okay, when it comes down to, a conflict with a friend, what matters to me in this situation? Well, our friendship. Do you need to be right, or do you need to save the friendship? Do you need to be right, or do you need to be kind? Sometimes you do need to be right because it's for XYZ. But what truly matters in this situation? Not the next one, not the last one, the one you're reflecting on. The next question is, what strengths have I used to overcome challenges in the past? I love this one. This is when we start to discover what your strengths are. You see them highlighted throughout your life before you even knew what you were good at. There's so many things. Like, you are awesome. You are so good at the things that God's gifted you in that you downplay them because you don't realize that other people watch you in awe. And so as we discover them and we start to look back of how did those show up? What strengths have I used in the past? And by knowing that, we can also step into how we can use them in the future. We can lean on them and say, okay, I may not know all of this, but I do know one of mine is that I figure it out. I figure out how to make something work. It may not be pretty. It may not be cheap. It may not be expensive. It may not look a certain way, but I can figure out how to get something. And I also see opportunities and I see connections that some people don't see. I can see how this strength can lend itself to this purpose. That's how God gifted me. And so then, and the next one is, what's one of the things I've done recently that I'm proud of? Girlfriend, you should be really proud of what you do. There are elements. And even yesterday I was working with my mastermind group. And one of the things that one of the ladies said is because I was talking about how a couple of areas that I'd fallen short this year. And she's like, Tami, can we stop right now? Can you list 3 things that you've done this year that you should be proud of? And I was like, well, let me think about it. And then she rattled off 3 things that were not even on my list. They're like little things, but made a big impact. So when we look at one thing that we've done that we're proud of, it starts a chain of events in our brain and in our life, and realize that you are worthy of the calling that God's put on your heart. Okay, so that's reflect. Take time to reflect. And I would encourage you to take time to reflect every day. Start with 5 minutes. If you don't want to write, then sit in silence for 5 minutes and just think. But I want to encourage you to get to the point where you can take an extended 20-ish minutes, 30 minutes. If you don't get to an hour, that's fine. Rarely do I ever have an hour that I can sit and reflect, or that my brain will let me do that because it's already on to like what's coming next. But take some time to reflect. Like this year, commit that we're going to change. We're going to grow, that we're not going to stay in the same place as we are right now, that we're going to take our stand, and we're going to be who God called us to be. And we're going to lean into the greatness that He's put inside of us so we can do His work, so we can partner with Him. It is not selfish. It's the highest act of calling. It's the highest level of love we can offer, is to serve someone. So let's serve with our strengths. All right, the next one is to reframe. I am a master at this, and I've actually had to stop because not everything needs to be reframed. However, there are things that, like this new perspective, you don't reframe to let you off the hook. You reframe it to, what did I learn from this? What can I take from this? Or what do I want to leave from this? So shifting your mindset by rethinking how you view challenges and setbacks.
It doesn't mean the setback didn't happen, doesn't mean the challenge didn't happen, but let's reframe. And this is where, like, once you review it and you say, okay, what mattered to me in the situation, then you can ask yourself, like, instead of focusing on seeing where you fell short, where did my strengths show up? What's one thing in this that I did right? And there's going to be, I guarantee there's at least one thing, probably more than that. But if we retrain our mind to think as setbacks and challenges as opportunities to grow, then that when that imposter syndrome like sneaks in, when the overwhelm starts to sneak in, and remember, those are just calls for clarity, then we can recognize them as signs of growth, as signs of like, okay, this is something we haven't experienced before. Let's do it. But so you can ask yourself, here's 2 questions that you can ask yourself is what in this situation, what is this situation teaching me about myself? I worded that weird. So what is this teaching me about myself? What I'm going through? What is God highlighting? What am I learning about my strengths, my weaknesses, my calling? And the next question is, how can I view this challenge as an opportunity to strengthen my skills? I'm a big proponent of, instead of trying to elevate our weaknesses, I say pour gas and time and energy into our strengths. So how is this an opportunity to lean into my strengths more? And so by reframing, it doesn't mean letting you off the hook and being like, oh, I feel guilty and now I don't. It means, what do you want to take from it? Let's look at where you're strongest and how can that help you grow. And then the last one, the last R, if you notice, the 3 things to stop doing all start with a D: doubting yourself, doing it all, and deflecting compliments. And the 3 things to start doing start with an R: reflect, reframe, and reconnect. We all got disconnected after 2020. We started showing up online to try to connect, and that is not real connection. We disconnected from ourselves. We disconnected from our friends. We disconnected from even our bosses and our coworkers and strangers. We disconnected from just the simple, like, hi, how are you doing, as we're walking down the street. We disconnected, like, we even covered our faces so we couldn't show our smiles. And so that disconnection, it breeds depression. So ground yourself with a support system and in faith. Ground yourself with, like, connect with your inner self and how God wired you. What is He teaching you about you? What is He telling you to stop doubting yourself and to go for it? What is this more that is on your heart? This, like, I know there's more. And when He's this question of who am I now, it's you get to connect with Him and say, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Who did you create me to be in this season? And every season looks different, and we get that opportunity to grow and reconnect. But talk to a trusted friend, a mentor, get with a coach. I heard this really, like, I've never heard it like this, but hiring a coach is like buying insurance for your dreams and your vision, your goals. It's helping you when you start to doubt yourself, when you start to get overwhelmed, or you start to feel the imposter syndrome. Having a coach be like, okay, let's go back to our strengths. It's the insurance you need, just that help when you need the help. It's that safety net that is there for when you and we'll, like, and it's, I would think, even like a trampoline, because when you jump down on it, it pushes you further, pushes you higher and stronger. And so talk to a coach, get a coach. Everyone needs a coach. Every CEO, every mom, every woman, every dude, like, everyone needs a coach. I mean, look, we have soccer coaches, we have art coaches, we have business coaches, we have coaches for everything. Who is your coach? Who is on your side to push you when you don't see how to push yourself? Or when you get the imposter syndrome or things get cloudy, who's there to help you, and who can you connect with that will help you see things clearly? Who will help you with the clarity? And so use this, like, talk to a friend who can remind you of your worthiness, your capabilities, your strengths, your motivations, your core values? Who could help you align you with who God created you to be? And I know I keep saying that because I want you to see there's this thing out here that I've heard so many times, and I got an email about it, about saying how selfish it is to focus on yourself. And I was like, well, when your goal is to do the best work for Jesus, He's not asking you to do everything. I am not a swimmer. I am not going to go and volunteer as a marine biologist, or go and dive and like clean the reef. All right. Could I? I mean, I guess capability, I could, but that is not my calling. And it would spend so much time like just trying to calm myself that I wouldn't actually be able to get that done. But this is something that my son is looking into because it excites him. So it's okay. Like, if we know what our calling is, we know what our strengths are, we have a clearer picture of where to serve, where to lean in, and where our gifts can be used and magnified. So it's not selfish. It's actually one of the least selfish things, because I would be wasting a lot of someone's time and energy if they strap a scuba gear on me and say, go down and clean the reef. I appreciate it. I value it. It needs to be done. But I know that that's not what I want to do. It's not really, I don't even know if I'm capable of it, because it would just panic me. But you tell me to go and talk to 200 teenagers about, or young adults about entrepreneurship or self-awareness, or how God wired them, or how to discover your purpose, or how to communicate better. Heck yes. I will do that, even if I'm nervous about it. Like, I don't do it easily without nerves. Like, I still get very nervous every time I step on a call, every time I step on a stage, every time I do this podcast. There's always that inkling of like, what if I say something wrong? Or what if I lose my train of thought? It happens. But when we use prayer, we use meditation, we use scripture to align with God's truth, that what He says about our value and our calling and our gifts, we can reconnect with ourselves, with Him, with our friends. And this reconnection will strengthen you. It will push you, and it will help you get what you want. All right. So reflect, reframe, reconnect. Reconnect with people, and reconnect with yourself, and reconnect most of all with the Lord. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. If this is something that you are, as we're stepping into 2025, what do you want to leave behind? Get on a call with me and let's talk about what you can stop doing and what you want to start doing. Let's talk about what reconnecting or reframing or reflecting. Let's talk about what God's called you to do in this season and how to get it. Let's talk about this imposter syndrome and how it is an indicator that you're pretty awesome, that you're capable, and whatever you don't know, God will fill in. Actually, He fills in way more. He takes the brunt of it. And how so many times we think that we're responsible for everything in a process, and really we're just responsible for the actions. He takes on the results and the outcome. But if you want to talk about this, if you're ready to say, okay, I am not going to stay in the same place next year. I'm going to commit to myself that I'm not going to doubt myself anymore, that I'm not going to do it all, or try to do it all, even try to figure it out by myself. And I'm definitely not going to deflect my zone of genius. Get on my calendar. It's a gift to you. It's a free call, and there's no obligation. Just get on the call and let's chat about what's possible. Now, if you want to take it a step further and you know, like, okay, Tami, I want to discover how God wired me. I want to discover what my purpose is, and 2025 is my year to do it. Then let me know on the call, and let's talk about what it would look like to work with me for 3 months. I'm doing a special, like very focused, very focused framework. I'm going to guide you through this process to get rid of imposter syndrome, to dismantle it, and to overcome overwhelm, and to stop feeling stuck and start feeling aligned. So if you're interested, and by the time this airs, like, I have people on my calendar already. I only have 3 spots available for this program. So if you think you may be interested, get on my calendar and let's chat. Link is in the show notes. Come, let's chat. And again, like, you have so much to offer. I don't believe you'd be listening to this podcast if you weren't worthy. And so I want you to say yes to yourself and commit that you're not going to stay in the same place you are right now. Don't wish for God's calling on your life. Like, step into who He's called you to be. And I can help you discover what that is. All right, friend, with that, choose joy until joy chooses you, and I will talk to you soon.